So one thing that I'm not sure I've ever really mentioned here on my channel, but I know I've mentioned in other places around the YouTube verse and Facebook groups and things, is how the sword suit is my favourite suit in the tarot deck. I love it. I love it when I get the cards in readings even. It's definitely the suit that I feel the most connected with. What I know I've never spoken about before, and what I thought might be interesting to share for people who are interested, is how the suit used to be my least favourite of the deck, and how I kind of went from it, how I did that total 180 where I went from basically hating the suit to loving it. So when I first started to read tarot, I read for like a good 15 years, between like the ages of 20 and 35. I owned decks and I would do like random Celtic Cross readings with them every now and again. I had this thing for a while where I would get my deck out on a Sunday and I'd do a couple of Celtic Cross readings, always Celtic Cross because that was what you did. And I always interpreted my reading using the books. And my go-to book was always Tarot Plain and Simple by Anthony Lewis. And when you read the keywords to the swords in a tarot book like this one, it's not difficult to understand why they might be people's least favourite suit. So the keywords for the swords in this deck we have... So first of all, we have traits, and the traits aren't too bad. So the traits are associated to start with mental, communicative, so communication, right? Intellect, and then you have things like detached, aloof, impersonal, analytical, calculating, serious, determined, aggressive, spiteful, and those kind of traits. Remember them because they will become relevant when I talk a bit more about something unrelated to the keywords, but related to the keywords. It will all make sense. Trust me. It will all hopefully make sense by the end. But then the keywords that you have are strife, tension, upset, conflict, struggle, hostile forces. And then again, you have communication. Communication is obviously a big thing with air, in the mental sphere and, you know, that kind of thing. You have arguments, confusion, contention, disappointment, challenge, obstacles, disagreements, worries, sorrows, problems. Those are all the kind of words that are associated with the sword suit. Not fun, right? Not fun words, not great, not, you know, when you're learning and these are the keywords that you're confronted with, I don't think it's beyond the realms of reasonable that it's a struggle to connect with that suit. And then when you look at the kind of like the individual cards, so this book is sorted by number, which is a bit of a pain because it makes them difficult to find, but you have headlines. So the headline I think for the Ace of Swords is not too bad. It's the power of intellect. Not bad, right? Intellect isn't necessarily a bad thing. Then you have the Two of Swords. The headline is stalemate. The Three of Swords is heartbreak, or heartache. I apologise. The Three of Swords is heartache. This book is like literally falling apart. The Four is not too bad. The Four is respite, which isn't particularly a bad word. And then we get the Five of Swords, which is empty victory. We get the Eight of Swords as restriction. The Nine of Swords. The Nine of Swords is actually known as the Nightmare card. The Nightmare card. I mean, right? And then when we get to the Ten of Swords, the actual headline is not bad, right? So the headline is an irrevocable ending. So irrevocable obviously just means an irrevocable ending is just an ending that is done. It's finished. You can never go back. It's over. That's it. Not necessarily a pleasant idea when, you know, as human beings, we're not overly keen on change and stuff, but not horrible. But then the keywords themselves are like ruin, failure, defeat, a forced change, an emotional cut-off, pain, separation, stalemate, again, but this time it's permanent, it's a permanent stalemate, distress, negative thinking, depression, loss, devastation, disruption, hitting bottom, disaster. It's like, oh my God. these cards are horrible, and the keywords are horrible, and when they come up in a reading and you're doing it from the book and you get this book out and you look at these keywords and you just think, holy hell, what is this? What is this? I don't want these cards in my reading. And so there was that big like, every time I was confronted with this suit, every time I was confronted with one of these cards in a reading, it had so many negative keywords and so much negative connotation attached to it that I started to really dislike them, to the point where they became something that I really, really hated to see. Even bigger than that, and probably even more personal than that, was my own personal relationship with the suit. So firstly, I am a Libra, so I'm an air sign. So the suit is one that is naturally sits with my suit. I also have like air signs appear like 5 or 6 times in my natal chart. So I have a very heavy air natal chart as well. So air is a big part of my personality, I suppose you could say. And the Queen of Swords, being a Libra, is the card that is most like me. It's the card that I would use as my significator card. It's the card that I'm most connected to as a Libran, irrespective of the fact that I'm a woman and it's a queen and all those kind of things. You don't really need to necessarily take those into account. It's purely that I'm an air sign, I'm a Libran, and that connects me with the Queen of Swords. Now, the key word for her is that, like, her headline is not so bad. So her headline is intelligent and solitary. It's not nice, it's not lovely, it's not warm and fuzzy, but it's not horrible, right? And then we've got a woman alone, head over heart. And she's got some reasonable, like, keen intellect, analytical ability, autonomy, ambition. They aren't necessarily bad words. And we've got aloofness. But then we've got fair judgment, independence, communication. Again, not necessarily bad words. I mean, reversed, the Queen of Swords reversed is described as a real bitch, which doesn't make her sound like the nicest. And when it's talking about people, it refers to somebody who is aloof, who is cool, calm and collected, who is intelligent, witty and analytical, who is aloof and intellectual, cold, idealistic, a career woman with little interest in developing her love life or her social life. So it's not in and of itself a bad card, but what the Queen of Swords represented, and what the swords in general represented for me for a long time, when I was between the ages even of 20 and my 30s, was everything about myself that I didn't want to be, everything about myself that I didn't like, everything about myself that I tried to deny. I didn't want to be intelligent. Intelligent women aren't popular. Intelligent women aren't pretty or thought of as the one that people want to spend time with. You know, and all of this is stereotyping and it's generalization. It's absolute rubbish. Let me get that out there right to start with. I'm not saying this is true. I'm saying this is how I felt. Being intelligent didn't make me likable. Being intelligent didn't make people want to date me or go to parties with me or be my BFF. Witty, I always think of witty as that kind of humour that's quick, and it can be quite dry, and it can be quite biting, and it can be quite sarcastic. It's not warm and fuzzy, again, right? It's not warm and fuzzy and nice and likeable and emotionally whatever. So there were, and then there's things like analytical. Like, I am really analytical. It's something I do. I'm a really in your head person, and I analyze everything to death, and I overthink everything. But these were parts of my personality that I didn't like about myself. I wanted to change. I didn't want to be that person. I wanted to be the Queen of Cups or the Queen of Pentacles or even the Queen of Wands. I wanted to be emotional and compassionate and grounded and passionate about things. I wanted to be those women, and I do have traits of those women in my personality, because we all do. But I wasn't. I was the Queen of Swords. I didn't want to be that woman. And one of the things I think when people I know who are Queen of Swords, one of the things that we do worry about and that does come up for us is this idea that we're cold and we're calculated and we're aloof. And only speaking for myself and for nobody else who is a Libran or an air sign or who identifies in any way with the Queen of Swords, but for myself, I think on some level, those things can be quite true of me. I can be quite cold. I can be quite aloof. I can even be calculating at times. I'm not open and vulnerable and warm with absolutely everybody. I don't dive into friendships with people. I find it very, very difficult to make friends because I'm not somebody who gives it my all. I'm very standoffish and I really hold back until I feel like I know people, until I feel like I can trust people. And I am constantly analysing all the people in my life, trying to work out whether or not they're people that I want in my life and whether I'm willing to share that much with them. I don't take those risks. So all of those things about me are quite true, but they were things that I didn't like about myself for a very long time. And because I didn't like them about myself, I really struggled to connect with the swords. So for me, that journey that I went on to going from hating the swords to loving the swords was actually like this major personal journey of self-love, where I learned to acknowledge, the more that I learned to acknowledge and embrace those parts of myself, the more I learned to love and acknowledge those parts of that suit. So there was that. So there was that kind of whole self journey of self-love kind of thing. But there was also like another side of that was for a very, very long time, I wanted to avoid anything that I thought of as negative. I wanted to avoid the challenges. I wanted my life to just be easy. I mean, my life was incredibly challenging, particularly in my 20s, in my late teens, my 20s. And I rebelled against those challenges so much. And I went to that toxic positivity place where I wanted everything to be positive and I just wanted to focus on the positives, and I thought if I ignored the negative stuff, it would go away and it would be okay. But of course it wouldn't go away, and it didn't go away, and I just kept getting lots of sword cards in my readings instead because I was ignoring these challenges and these things that I needed to focus on and was trying to avoid them. And the light in here is just getting darker and darker and darker. Can you even see me anymore? I don't know. But anyway, I'm going to carry on. So yeah, I've kind of reached a point now where I realise that the positives and the negative moments in my life both offer me opportunities to learn and opportunities to grow as a person. And actually, what I find is that when I get the more challenging or the more negative cards come up, it's because I'm going through an experience that is going to give me the most amount of growth. It's in those negative, challenging, terrifying, heartbreaking, restrictive places that I have had the most growth as an individual in my lifetime so far. And I recognise that now. And because I have that benefit of hindsight where I can look back on my life and I can see that that's been the case, I'm also now conscious of it. So that means when I'm in those moments now, I'm more conscious of the fact that yes, they're shitty, yes, they're hard, yes, this situation is challenging and it's going to push me, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make it through in a way that I want to, but ultimately I know that something is going to come out of this that is going to benefit me in some way, even if it doesn't feel like it right this moment in time. So now when I see the swords come up in a reading, I see them as those opportunities to really grow and push myself as a person. And then finally, the other thing that I think has really taught me to love the swords is just that connection with the air sign, and the connection with personal development as a whole, which is something that I am obviously very passionate about. I've talked about that before. And for me, I think that when you go on a journey of personal development, I think there are aspects of all the elements involved in that. But one of the biggest aspects for me in my personal development journey so far has been the element of air, because it's all been a very mental thing. It's all been very analytical and reflective, and it's been a lot about thinking and communicating in things like doing videos and just having therapy and talking to people within my social circles who I trust about certain things, and also journaling. Obviously writing is a form of communication. It's something that sits very strongly within the element of air. So my personal development journey as a whole has been a very air-oriented journey, and it just all ties in very beautifully with my sense of self, and conversely, therefore, my connection with the Suit of Swords. So it's been a massive personal journey that I've been on that has kind of led me to do that 180, where I've gone from hating the swords, like not even just disliking them, but actively hating the swords, to loving them so much that they are now my favourite suit within the entire deck. I would really love to know what your favourite suits are, and whether you have any kind of personal experience that you can and are willing to share as to why that might be the case. So let me know in the comments below if you do. Otherwise, I will see you all shortly for another one. Take care everyone, and lots of love. Bye bye.